Okay, this is a half blood knot. I've been tying this one since a kid. It is by far the most I've ever used a knot for fishing. Very simple one. So what I do is I go through the eye once, pull a bit of a tag through. Now this is 50-pound line, so if it was 50, I'd probably go 5 times around. That's 3, 4, 5. If you're using, say, 6-pound, 10-pound, you go 8 times around. And all I do is put that back through that little loop that was created. That's it. Now always lubricate your knots. Let's use a little bit of spit. Pull that up. That's a half blood done. I use it for tying on hooks, tying on swivels, even use it tying to split rings on lures. Okay, this is a loop knot. This is one that I use for tying on lures that don't have a split ring, so you're tying it straight to the toe point of the lure. Put that aside. So first off, I tie a granny knot, just like so. Just a straight plain granny knot. I'm going to use a hook here, but just pretend that this hook is the toe point for the lure. So I go through the eye of the hook, then I go back through the loop created by that granny knot. You know, with that, pull it up. Now this, pull that down a bit, the loop. And here's where you measure how far you want to be from the, or how big that loop is. So if, again, 50-pound line, I only have to go around once, twice. Now what I want to do is stick, you can see where those both ends have come through. I'm going to put this tag end back through that little loop created here. And I'll just pull it up. Again, a little bit of lubrication. Pull that knot up. Takes a bit of cinching down. Also pulling on that tag end. I'm doing it with my teeth, which isn't a good idea, and you end up with a nice little neat knot. Trim off the tag end. There we have it. What this allows to do is that most lures, especially ones with action like a crankbait, bib lure, when it's swimming, it just allows it that freedom of the loop to get a really good action going. Even metals I use this because they tend to, a lot of the metals I use have an action as well, especially the Mr. Twisties. And that's a loop knot. That's how you fix a lure to your leader. This next knot is used for tying on heavy leader, whether it be fluoro or mono. So yeah, it's tying on heavy leader, 60-pound or above. You can use this from 60 all the way through to a couple £100. Even though like your high-end ones like 200-pound, you're probably crimping them, but say 60 to £100, just a knot. Okay, so just like half blood, go through the eye. You want a bigger tag end for this one, quite a bit. I've got about 3 inches there. Just like the half blood, I wrap it only around twice. Once, twice. Then I go with that tag back through that eye. And then what I do is this tag end, I wrap that back around that knot once, twice. You think my fingers be a bit more nimble after this, and you're left with that sort of configuration on the knot there. Then all I do is pull that up. So that's what I'm left with. Now all I do is pull it down. It's down on the hook. A little bit of spit, and you want to always make sure that you're seating. So put a fair bit of weight on there. You don't want to break the line, obviously, but that's what you're left with. And also pull on the tag end, just to get it down. That's it. Trim off the tag, nice and close. That's it. Not for tying heavy mono, not sure of the name. Okay, this one's called the FG knot or fine grip. Sorry about my sexy legs being in this one, but I need them to tie this knot. Okay, starting off on the right hand side, I've got this is 60-pound mono, and I'm using 50-pound braid just so you can see it, but you can tie it anywhere from 6-pound right through to whatever you want, whatever size line. This knot is used for joining braid to your fluorocarbon leader. Now when you're using lures and that sort of stuff, this you'll need to know this knot, I think. The reason it's so effective is that with other braid to leader knots, you have to double the leader over in order to tie them. So you're going to end up with the knot's going to be double whatever leader you're using plus the braid wrapping around. Braid's obviously a lot thinner than mono, but with this knot, you only have it once. Instead of creating like a knot, what this creates is like a Chinese finger trap on one bit of line where the braid is interwoven down there and actually digs into the mono to hold it. So we're creating like what would you call a Chinese finger trap. So I've got enough tag here between my legs that I can wrap it around the braid, which I'll show you in a minute. On the left hand side, I've got some 50-pound braid. Now what I do is I come from the end of the braid and I want about probably 10 inches to a foot. Hold it, make a loop in the line, go all the way back down to where the two lines meet. So that's where that tag is. Now I grab that with my thumb and I need to anchor this knot to my pinky finger. So I'm wrapping around, not too tight. You don't want to cut off circulation, but you want it to be firm that when you're pulling it, it doesn't slip. Now what I'm going to do here is I've anchored underneath the spool of my right foot, so the mono can't. When I'm trying to pull it that way, it won't move. Because we need this knot's underneath a bit of tension. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down around my toe down here, and I want it enough that it gets me to about in the middle here between my legs. So I'm using my knees and my legs to put tension on this knot. Once I got that length, I'll just wrap the braid around there a few times just to really hold it. Okay, so now what I've got is this part here. If I try and pull it that way, it can't come either. Okay, so what I do now is I've got that, I put that between my thumb and index finger. So we've already got this tag end loose here. Okay, so we're going to start creating a finger trap now. So I pass the leader material between in that triangle underneath where here is. Can't pull it up. You want a bit here. You want about, I've got about 4 inches past there. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to alternate going under and over until I use about 16 turns. So we go 1, that side, then back the other side, 2, 3, 4. And what you can see that's creating is that finger trap around that line. So I've got 4. I'm going to go quite quick now. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. So we've got that finger trap now. It's like braided over the mono. And what I'll do here is you're using all your fingers and you'll get your own way of doing it. So I'm just securing that there. I hold that. You unravel that from around your finger. Now this part, I had the braid on my left knee and under my foot. Now I need to transfer that over. So the braid goes on the right hand side. and the mono goes on the left. Same thing again. I've got to secure the leader material underneath my left foot. I'll swap that over again. Seems like a fair bit of mucking around, but once you get the hang of this, it's not too bad. You can do them quite quick. I'm doing them slow now. Again, on this side, I come over the top of my knee here, down to my foot, just around there once until I get the right length. Okay, I've got the right length, that knot sitting in the middle between my legs, so I'm just going to loop around there. A couple more times to hold it. Again, this knot stays under tension until it's finished. Okay. So I'll try and get this in the middle somehow. Okay, now we're going to finish this off. So we've got those loops there. All I'm going to do is tie a half hitch around the braid, around the leader, goes off that way. Mainline braid going that way. So all I do is tie a half hitch. Try and get them both in there. What this is going to do, it's going to lock down that Chinese finger trap or those loops. You see that there? Now I've got that half hitch there. It's kind of like, it's locked down now. I don't have to worry about holding that anymore. Again, like all your knots, I'm going to pull this trap up now before I finish it off. Pull these loops up. So I'm going to, hope you didn't see my tongue then. So I've lubricated that. I'm going to start pulling up. Just putting tension on. Now you also want to tension the braid end, the tag end on the braid. And you just keep pulling it up. Obviously this is 50 pounds, so I can put a bit of weight on it. You'll notice that when I pull on the main line braid and the tag line braid, the knot starts to distort. But when I pull on the tag of the braid, it'll straighten back up again. You'll notice a lot of the time this braid will change color. The actual color in the line will go more clearer. And that means it's really biting. This is a good stage just to test the strength, and that's good. So I'm going to finish the knot off now. There's multiple ways of doing this. So I've done, trying to get you into this. Not easy. Okay. So what I'm going to do is, I've done one hitch around the tag of the leader and the braid. So I'm going to do another hitch. I'm going to do 4 of these hitches. One, that's 2. 3. 4. Pull them up nice and tight as you're going. Okay. Now I cut off the tag end of the leader, really, really close to the knot. So I'm left with that. I'm going to do 4 more hitches just on the braid. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you notice, I'm alternating hitches. So I'm going around that way and then going around that way on the next one. Now, what I'm going to do here is a risotto or a whip finish. So, the way I do that is, hit the line, I'm going to go 1, so I'm wrapping back up the line, I've made a loop, get the tag, so we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is enough with heavy line. So I've wrapped back up the line there, hold that. I want to get this tag a bit closer here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unwrap these loops so you end up going around. You'll see as I'm going, but you can see that if I turn that whole lot that way, it's unwrapping from here. I clinch here, finger there. So when I'm unwrapping, I can hold them under my finger. So I'm unwrapping this loop. Should be about 6 times, but you'll see when it's fully unwrapped. like I said, bit of a process. I'm doing it slow. When you get good at this, they can be done quite quickly on a boat or whatever. So you can see there, that's unwrapped now. This camera focuses. It's all unwrapped. So what I do is I get this tag end here and start pulling. And you'll see this loop's getting smaller. Smaller, smaller, smaller. Gently, you make sure those wraps are all not going over each other. And you can see there, this line now is underneath 6 wraps of braid to secure it. This is the reason I do this, is the best way that the knot won't come undone. With that, as per usual, I'll just put a bit of spit on my fingers and pull that. You want to put a bit of tension on this. A bit of tension on it. That's good. You can even see here on the knot, there's a little bit of where the mono's looped around funny, but that's okay. I'm not going to do this again. So that's it. As you get better at them, you do them a lot quicker. You're left with this tag. You trim it off. I like to leave just a little bit. Just a little bit there hanging, just so I can tell if the knot's if it's undoing. Got about 1 mil there. I'll notice if it starts getting longer than the knot is becoming undone. Some guys will get a lighter in there and burn that down, so it creates a little bit of a bulge so it doesn't pull through, but I don't worry about that. That's an FG knot. I hope that made sense. Bit of a mission. There's a ton of other videos on how to do them, probably much better than this one. So, okay, this is called the double surgeon's knot. Mostly I use this for making tapered leaders when I'm fly fishing. So obviously where the fly line is, you use heavier mono or fluorocarbon, like 60, 80 pound. Tie my tapered leader in 3 parts, so you go like 60 down to 30 down to 10. That's how I do them. This is how you join 2 pieces of monofilament in that set of circumstances. So I've got, just say this is the thicker line going back to the fly line. This is the middle part of the leader. So all you do is you bring these together. So they've got the main line going off over here and the other bit of line going off over here, and between them here I've got about, about 10 inches holding on to that. So what I do is, this is a double surgeon variation. So what I do is I grab that, make a loop like so, hold it, and all I need to do is hold that there. I'm passing that and that line through once. I'll go back through there again twice. So I'm left with that. That's a double surgeons. I've been through there twice. You can go 3 times. I find double holds fine rather than a triple surgeons. Again, you want to lubricate. Use a bit of spit on there. If you don't lubricate your knots, it generates heat in the mono, and that will weaken the knots. And yes, I'm just pulling that down, pulling it down. Pull that to tighten it up. And also pull on the tag of the main line and the tag with that. Pull it up. So that knot's created now. Just give all the ends a bit of a pull. And that's it. So I got that. Like I said, this is mainly pertaining to fly fishermen, but maybe come in handy if you want to use a heavy mono main line with a thinner leader. Cut the tags off. That's it. Double surgeon's knot. Okay, so this is called the fisherman's knot. This is also for joining mono to mono, whether you're using a lighter mono for your main line, you want to tie on a heavier trace for your toothy critters like tailor and mackerel and that sort of stuff, tuna. So you join them. I mainly use this again for fly fishing. This knot holds with the double surgeons. You seem to be able to get away with light line, but when it's you're tying on heavy leaders for your bigger fish, or creating heavier tapered leaders, this one's a good one. But this is just you can join the same weight mono together or fluorocarbon, and yeah, just join those two types together. So what I do is, it's like I did a half-blood knot earlier, so this is a half-blood to half-blood kind of thing, if that makes sense. So just sort of like cross over the lines. So I'm doing here, I've got that one from the left coming away, and what I do is I just loop that over that line like so, bring it back around. I'm just going to hold with my left hand, hold this here, and then I'm just going to again wrap around 5 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, back through that loop that's created, and just pull that knot up. You don't want to pull it up all the way at this stage, just enough so it holds. Then I'll just change that over, because I'm right-handed again. Do the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back through that loop created. Pull that up. So we basically got a half-blood to a half-blood knot. Again, always lubricate your knots and pull them up. And this is heavy line, so it's, again, I'll pull on tags using my teeth, which isn't great. And really get onto that knot. So I've given that a good hard pull. Looks a bit, pull it down, and that's it. That's called a fisherman's knot. Again, I trim off the tags nice and close to the knot, because you've seated your knot. It's important that you seat your knots. Most knot failures are from not seating your knot, and the knot just basically pulls apart. So that's it. That's a fisherman's knot, all done. And that's it. Okay, this is called the Advanced Snell or egg loop knot. It's the knot that I use for tying my blackfish hooks on. It's a knot that has a little loop on it that you can push through the eye, put your weed through, and pull it up, secure the weed. Weed's it's not easy to hold on a hook, but this is easily the best way I've found. I've played with a few knots over the years for blackfish, but this is the one. So, got my leader material here. You have to cut the leader away from the spool in order for this knot to work. So I always use about 60 centimeters of leader. So start this. Just a little bit of a note here with the hook configuration. You can see the eye is bending away from the curve of the hook. With my little Daiichis, it bends in this way, so it's a little bit different, but still the same principle. With snelling, you use the bent eye, so the line can pass through and actually tie the knot up the shank of the hook rather than on the front of the hook. So to start off with, I'm going to pass the line through the eye of the hook and bring that past about the length of a hook. Hold on to that. Now with this side, I'm going to wrap that back up the hook 5 times. So that's once, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what I've got there is just some nice loops that aren't wrapping over the top of each other, and I'll lay it out nice and even. With my right hand, I'm just going to pinch that and hold it. Now with this other end of the tag, I go right up this end. Give yourself about, a little bit there, and I'm going to pass that back through the eye of the hook. So I'm left with this little loop here. Now, passing it back into the other hand again and pinching it. What I've got here is that top line, that's the one, this one here is the one going through the eye, so it'll move. You can pull on that. I want enough here on that loop so I can wrap it around. So I'll just lay that down on there, that's laid down. Now this is where I sort of like gets a bit, you got to like twist these around. So, and I'll go 5 times there too. So the top line there, you're wrapping the bottom line around it. So it's snelling the bottom line around the top. So I go once, 2, 3. Make sure you're going through that tag too. 3, 4, 5. Hold that. Lubricate. And then pull that up. When this knot seats, you'll hear it. You hear that little snap. I also sometimes hear I'll get a set of pliers or hemostats and pull both ends. You've got a snell in front of that loop and a snell at the back. So I'll give a bit of a pull. And that'll seat both sides. So that's the advanced snell there. You want to cut the tag off. Nice and close. Leave a couple of mil. What this gives you is when you're using weed like cabbage or horsehair or green weed, it gives you a loop here. Is that loop coming away there? So I can easily put my weed with cabbage. I'll get a bunch, pull it through there, pull it down. You don't want to lean on it too much. You'll pull through the weed. Just a good bit of tension. Hold it there. And then all I do is, got the weed down here, I just pass that through a bit of cabbage once, and that's it. You got a beautiful little bait for blackfish. Using stringy weed, you can open that back up again. So you got that loop. And if you're using long bits of weed, you pass it evenly through there, pull it up, and then alternately wrap it around the hook till you've got a nice bit of weed. So that's a bit of a hack, I suppose, for blackfish fishing. So that's it. The advanced snell.